Today we would get into second elimination technique, right? If you remember, right, as I already told you, we are going to deal with one technique every day, right? And regarding the content and regarding the detailed explanation of PYQs, you please understand all the content aspect of PYQs have been included in your notes, right? You need not worry at all, because some of you would ask me for a detailed explanation of PYQs. I don't find a point when all of the content of PYQs has been already included in your notes. So I would majorly use PYQs for what? Technique and execution purpose, right? And in case if something is going overboard, especially some questions which are going out of our ambit, I would take those questions separately. But otherwise, more or less in subjects like polity, most of that will be in our ambit. Problem when you're solving polity questions is what? One is you make silly mistakes. Two, you unnecessarily overthink, where you bring in certain judicial interpretations into the name of constitution, right? Which is not very relevant, because when we were discussing the first technique also, and when we were talking about that first session also, it was very clear that original constitution is different, constitution is different, and judicial interpretations are different. We have seen the differences, right? Now, what was the first technique that we discussed? What was the first technique? First technique was regarding constitution. What did we see? We see that defining, classify, procedure, criteria, all of these cannot be present in constitution, especially detailed procedures, right? Mostly the only procedure that is available in the constitution is passing a bill. That's a detailed part which is present. But otherwise, apart from that, you look at impeachment procedures, you look at appointment procedures, it doesn't talk about procedure aspect, but it only talks about authority who is appointing, authority who is impeaching or removing. That's all. Nothing else. It doesn't even talk about the detailed procedure, right? That is not there. But when you look at constitution, it talks about what? Majorly mentions, and majorly you also see the principles of certain elements are also present in constitution, right? And I also told you constitution does not talk about any time frame except for tenures of the office. And when we spoke about tenures of the office, it is mostly the constitutional offices. It is the constitutional offices which talks about tenure, right? There are certain constitutional offices which doesn't even talk about tenure. Are you understanding that, right? Now, do you have a tenure with respect to judges? Appointing age? Is there an appointment age for judges? No. Voting age? Yes. Yes or no? Representing age? Yes. Are you understanding this, right? With respect to legislature, you have mostly. With respect to executive, you have. But with respect to judiciary, the entry age is not present. Are you understanding? Again, there I would give you a simple tabular column there. So the first technique that we discussed was constitution aspect. The second technique that we are going to discuss today is mostly with respect to organizations. Now, when I am talking about organizations, I am being very clear here. One, something related to India. The other one is with respect to international organizations. More or less, I would discuss the part of international organizations in the cluster of IR. But the principles will remain same. What are the principles here? When I talk about Indian aspect, mostly the specified ministry is incorrect. I think you have a test today, first test of polity 9 to 10. This is an instruction to online people. If you want result on time, ensure that you sit and write the test between 9 to 10. Although you have a window of writing the test for 24 hours, but if you want it on time and if you want a comparative analysis there, then you can attempt it between 9 to 10. And you don't have a window of 24 hours, offline people, you have a window of 9 to 10. I would request you to sit and write the test, right? And second aspect is, don't worry about marks, right? I always keep talking about basket of mistakes. When I say basket of mistakes, what does that mean? You keep exhausting as many mistakes as possible, right? If you can make 2000 mistakes, make 2000 mistakes. And if you're making, say, 10 mistakes in the first test, ensure that you're not repeating the same mistakes in second test. So what's going to happen? I'm going to have 10 more mistakes done in second test. So I'm finishing 20 ways of making a mistake. And once I exhaust 100 plus mistakes in my tests, because that is how you're supposed to consider tests, I would have very less probability of creating a new mistake in the exam hall. That is the target. And you write tests not to show off with your friends, because I have seen people scoring 100 plus, I have seen people scoring 120 in tests but not qualifying prelims consecutively. So for us, what is our business? Practice. 2, see how much you know. 3, what mistakes are you making? That's the major purpose of writing test, right? And if you ask me, sole agenda is understanding what kind of mistakes can you make. Because human brain is such that if you subject it to pressure and if you subject it to attention, automatically what happens is it has its own ways of escaping. And in the process of escaping, what happens? You tend to make a lot of mistakes. So understand what kind of mistakes are being made by each one of you, and that is more than sufficient. Don't worry about what's going on, right? I'm not scoring. Even if you get negative, you enjoy. Why? Because if you're getting negative, it means you have done many mistakes and you have reduced so many mistakes from your basket of mistakes. So for which you should celebrate, right? More negative you get, more celebration. Very simple. That's how you take test. What some people do, that especially our education system, right? What we tend to do when we are not very prepared, we don't write a test. Why? We are scared of low marks. And in first test, you get less marks. What happens? You tend to skip second test, third test, fourth test. You stop writing tests and finally sit down testing your potential in the exam hall. Ain Raj, fix it. Because exam hall, I always compare a candidate's brain in exam hall is like a potato boiling in a pressure cooker. If you put a microscope or if you put something into that pressure cooker and observe the potato keeps on jumping. అవునా? నీ కంట్రోల్లో ఉంటుందా? ప్రసక్తే లేదు. Subject to the pressure, ఖచ్చితంగా you know that the visual weight is going to be more. దాని మీద కూడా క్వశ్చన్ అడిగా 2021లో, తెలుసు కదా? Yes or no? That is what I'm telling you. Can you control this? You definitely know the pressure is more, you definitely know the flame is more. And what is the condition of potato? God knows, right? So practice it. And trust me, my dear, for those people who are not clearing prelims consecutively, if I say more than 3, it is not the condition of knowledge for all of you. Especially, or in fact, surprisingly, this batch of HIR has more than 70% of the candidates from this section. And I'm very happy for that. For one reason, that you better understand this is not the problem of knowledge. Because these people are what, my dear? These people are experts in knowledge. Right? You name the source, they would have read it. You name the material, they would have read it. You name the notes, they would have written it. But the problem is what? Execution. Another problem is what? Belief. Another problem is what? consolidation. Another problem is what? Where are you channelizing your knowledge? So for those people who are of this, especially more than 2, more than 3, those people don't worry about knowledge. All that you'll have to practice is what? Execute. Because you are not failing outside exam hall, but you're definitely failing in the first 1 hour of the exam. That's pakka. I don't have to look at your palm and talk about this. Or I don't need to be an astrologer for this, but my experience can definitely tell that if it is an ambit of more than 2, more than 3, you are giving up in the first 1 hour. And when you give up in the first 1 hour, what you tend to do, in the second 1 hour, you try to play carelessly. And at the end of the day, what happens? You will have more negatives than positives. And you say, what will you say? My star alignment is not good. My luck is not good. Whatever I did not study, that came. Whatever I studied, I could not remember. Prelims is not a game of luck. No. Prelims is a game of art. And that we are slowly building in this process. Okay. Now, getting into this organization aspect, you see, ministry is mostly wrong. Okay. Then, not only ministry is mostly wrong, you see the source of the formation of that particular organization is mostly right. Source. Then again, be very, very careful with respect to the extreme factual aspect of any organization. 4, if I am saying more than 2 organizations are doing something, right? For suppose say Z report is given by X and Y. 99.9% of the times that is an incorrect statement. That means wherever I see a composite nature of a activity which is happening, I see that the statement is going to turn out to be incorrect. 99.9% of the times. And when I talk about these international organizations, you please understand, although I would deal with those better when I'm dealing with IR cluster, most of the organizations, whatever you see, whatever declarations they have, they are non-binding in nature. Whatever declarations they have, they are non-binding in nature, they are not binding in nature. Right? So again, please remember that although I would tell you 3 more tricks on international organizations, but for now you just remember that these international organizations, whatever agreements, declarations they make, they are non-binding. ठीक है? तो इसके हिसाब से हम थोड़ा देख लेंगे. And one more funda that you need to remember in Indian organization is look at logical consistency. Look at logical consistency. Ensure that there is a logical consistency which is present, right? So that is one thing that you need to remember with respect to Indian organizations. Let's get into some questions here. Okay. Now look at this question. The Reserve Bank of India mandates all the listed companies in India to submit a business responsibility and sustainability report. Now, when you look at this condition, one problem is all. The other problem is listed companies. The third problem is this report. Now, why? Because if you know the general mandate of RBI, it deals with what? Banking. Does it deal with companies? No. Which is the organization which deals with companies? SEBI. Which is the organization that deals with companies? It is SEBI. Which is the organization that deals with business? Forget about what is the organization, but you definitely know RBI is not going to deal with business. Why? Because RBI is dealing with what? greater economic aspect, not specific business. One, not only that, it is also dealing with what? Credit, inflation, more of economic parameters, more of banking parameters. Nothing to do with business. So automatically what is going to happen, my dear? The statement is going to go incorrect. Now what am I trying to show you here? For any organization, I already told you, look at logical consistency. And it is near impossible to remember the reports that are released by every organization. Near impossible. There is no other way of solving this question. There is no other way unless and until, अरे impossible यार, ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता. How much will you remember? Right? So one is check logic. Now look at the second statement. In India, a company submitting a BRSR makes disclosure in the report that are largely non-financial in nature. What is it talking about, my dear? Sustainability. What is it talking about? Responsibility. Are these financial or non-financial? Non-financial. Logical consistency. And it is a very general statement. Yes or no? Why? If this word was talking about only, what is it telling? Largely, can I say 51%, 49% is also largely? Logical again. Are you understanding this, right? So second statement is correct because mostly the second statement is an approximate statement. If it was telling that the report makes disclosures in the report that are 70% non-financial, it cannot be. It cannot be. And I cannot get into the specifics when it is general studies. I already told you, nothing is very specific, right? So answer for this is what? 2 only, right? Next. Now look at this. India has joined the Mineral Security Partnership as a member, right? We don't know again. Look at the second statement. India is a resource-rich country in all. Forget about critical minerals. Are we self-sufficient in coal or are we importing? 40%. Are we self-sufficient in oil? Importing? 85%. Are we self-sufficient in gas? Importing or self-sufficient? 58%. Imports. Yes. These are some of the essential minerals. Now when we are importing these essential minerals only, and what is the inherent nature, my dear? The problem with in India is what? Import bill. The problem with India is what? Current account deficit. Logic again. And forget about that, my dear. Can any country be ever rich in all the critical minerals? Impossible. Again, why? What is happening, my dear? This statement is becoming what? It's a blanket statement. It's a blanket statement. And naturally, it is impossible to have all of those in one country. Right? Because if you know basic geography, what is it telling, my dear? If some country is expanding from all these regions, then maybe it will have all the resources. Is there any country which is expanding from northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere? Madalo native wala. So automatically second statement comes out to be what? Wrong. Now when second statement is turning out to be wrong, what's going to happen? But people like you are suffering in these questions also. And UPSC is never expecting you to know about that strategic partnership. It is just expecting you to anticipate and say no country can be resource rich in all the minerals. वो भी क्या है? All the critical minerals. Impossible. नहीं होगा. Look at this. Directorate of Enforcement, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, Directorate General of Systems and Data Systems. I was talking about not the beginning, 3 matching. We had one question. Next year, be ready, my dear. You are going to have a plunge of these questions in the paper. Just like statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, they have plunged in 2025. They have preserved this pattern for next year. Don't worry, UPSC will not see my video. Get ready for that. And imagine your question paper volume if you have this. It's going to be big tables. So every page will only have 4 questions instead of 6 or 8. Imagine the number of pages of your question paper. What is the date today? 13th December 2025, predicting the future of 24th May 2026. పేపర్ తీసుకున్న వెంటనే పేపర్ ఏంట్రా ఇంత దొడ్డుగా ఉంది అనిపిస్తుంది. అండ్ ద ఫస్ట్ థాట్ షుడ్ బి వాట్, మా వాడు అప్పుడే చెప్పాడు. ఐఎమ్ నాట్ జోకింగ్ మై డియర్. ठीक है, so that's what I'm telling. That's what, see, fundamentally if it gets bulky, when the examiner is distributing, instead of carrying it like that, that fellow will be carrying it like this. Akkade psychology will play, and when he is distributing, you will catch it. It is heavy, it is thick, and when you open, you have many pages. What is playing on your mind? I am not joking, my dear. That is how UPSC is. First 3-5 minutes decides, and after 1 hour you give up. You come out, and that is the 90% reason for most of you not qualifying CSAT also. Because first 1 hour of your prelims examination, 9:30 to 10:30, you have given up. So you are not bothered about 2:30 to 4:30. Paindu elago avadu, kindidi enduku. And you come out and say, didn't qualify in CSAT. And immediately I will ask you, poddun paper sangat cheppu naku. You please understand, my dear, it is playing on your mind. ठीक है, 10 minutes you have a test, I think. ठीक है, we'll start test 15 minutes late. Is that fine? ठीक है. So Directorate of Enforcement. Now this was all in news. ED. Yes. Enforcement Directorate iste telustadi, but Directorate of Enforcement, enduku we know ED, this is something else. Now here it is talking about what? Internal Security Division, Ministry of Home Affairs. Now forget about that. I am considering this is right. What is it talking? Economic. What has Home Affairs got to do with economic? What has Home Affairs got to do with economic? Yes or no? Mostly economic is dealt by whom? Ministry of Finance. Right? Now here, Directorate Revenue Intelligence enforces the provisions of Customs Act. I don't know. Revenue. ठीक है, चलेगा. Now in this, don't put all ministries are wrong. Sir, here ministry wrong, sir, here ministry wrong, sir, here ministry wrong. You only told all ministries. No. That is in statements. Now here what are we having? Now what you will have to do in this question? You know one is incorrect. You are remaining with either. You definitely know this is also right. Why? Consistent. Look at the third one. Directorate General of Systems and Data Management, carrying out big data analytics. Chalega. Right? To assist tax officers for better policy and nabbing tax evaders. Tax is part of what? Revenue. Under which ministry? UPSC is giving you clue. Don't you think in this statement it would have simply stopped with carrying out big data analytics? దీనంతా తీసేసింటే Will it be possible for you to guess this? No. But what is it telling you? You see, tax. Here, custom. Chalega wo bhi. This is also what? Part of some form of tax. Custom duty we say. Some form of tax again related to what? Revenue. Are you understanding? We are not playing on knowledge again, we are only playing on general understanding. ठीक है? Look at this question. India accounts for very large portion of all equity option contracts. Indian stock market has grown rapidly in the recent past, even overtaking Hong Kong at some point of time. I don't know. I am never into stock markets, right? I'm only bothered about what? There is no regulatory body either to warn the small investors about the risk of options trading or to act on unregistered financial advisors in this regard. We are talking about what? Indian stock market. Yes. Now, when I am talking about Indian stock market, what is SEBI doing? What is SEBI doing? Regulating, guiding, indicating, talking about volatility, talking about responsible practices. How can you say there is no regulatory body? Yes or no? And we are talking about some country like what, my dear? India, which had something called as license Raj, which had era of over regulation. Always take it for granted, in India we would always have regulation. In India we would always have appeal. So next time if you see a statement there is no appellate body, definitely there will be an appellate body. There is no regulatory body, definitely you will have regulatory body. And why? Because it is near impossible, my dear. And look at the beauty of the statement arrangement here. You eliminate third statement. You don't even have to know about the first two here. Now this is not outside exam hall play. 25 paper, I have written it, no? Inside exam hall play. Because first two statements, I still remember how my face expression was when I saw Hong Kong. నాకు అస్సలు స్టాక్ మార్కెట్ ఐడియా లేదు. And I just waited for one opportunity, and the opportunity came in third statement, which fundamentally indicates that UPSC gives you opportunity to eliminate. Am I eliminating something random or based on logic? Logic. There has to be some regulation. There is some appeal. Definitely. Why? India is a democracy. And we have seen an era of over regulation. Next. You want me to solve that question? I've just put right. It is expected that Majorana 1 chip will enable quantum computing. ఎప్పుడో న్యూస్ పేపర్లో చూసినట్టు గుర్తు. Majorana 1 నాకు అసలు అలా ప్రొనౌన్స్ చేస్తారన్నది కూడా నాకు తెలియదు అది Majorana 1 Majorana 1 నాకు తెలియదు, రైట్. One chip has been introduced by Amazon Web Services. My logic says this is incorrect. What is my logic? Organizational fact is incorrect. Why? I see that this is a statement which can be made easily. Now, what is going to stop you from not doing it is you will have to take little bit of risk. And what is this risk? This is a pattern which is constantly observed, and this is a risk which can happily be taken. And on what basis am I telling you? I am not telling you in a superficial condition. I am fundamentally telling you after doing the same in the exam hall. That means all that you will have to see, even in the international organizations part, be watchful about the factual dynamics. And if the fact is getting extremely specific, there is a very high probability, at least 70 to 90% probability that it's going to go incorrect. It's going to go incorrect. So automatically what happens? You eliminate second statement. Where is that? One difference between you and me would be belief. You will have to believe. If this was the trend in 1 year, I would have told you, no, don't believe. I was lucky, my star position was fine. But this is a trend in every year, right? And we have multiple such factual based questions which are existing. Now look at this question. Now UPSC heard our classes that it skipped the statement of ministry but rather went into matching. The Coir board, Ministry of Heavy Industries. What is this? Coir, related to what? Coconut. నెత్తి మీద పడితే హెవీ, మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్లో అంత హెవీ ఏముంటుంది? Simple. But what is my fundamental takeaway? I have kept that when I talk about any plantation crop, I have two generalizations kept for me. One generalization is most of the plantation crops are introduced by South American countries into India. And this year also we had one question on this generalization. Last year also we had one question on this generalization. 2019 also we had one question on this generalization. 21 also we had one question on this generalization. 21 we had palm. 2019 we had cotton. 2020 we had cotton. This year we had papaya, all of that. Yes, have you seen that? 3 crops were given. And most of the plantation crops were introduced by whom? South America. One. The second thing that I see, anything that is looking into the regulation of this is what? There is a board, rubber board, silk board, coir board. Any of this is fundamentally regulated by Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Because it is dealing with what? Commerce of that plantation crop. It is dealing with commerce of that plantation crop. So in that context, what will happen, my dear? This is a plantation crop. And my logic is going to sit right. Why? Because it is not Ministry of Commerce. Yes. Now where am I seeing Ministry of Commerce? Above. So what is my logic saying? Probable? Yes or no? This is the trick of interchange. This is the trick of interchange, where you see that one of the options answer is placed somewhere else. There is a very high probability in the matching questions that there is an interchange. There is an interchange of options. When there is an interchange of options, automatically what's going to happen? Both of these options are going to go wrong. Are you getting the logic? Are you getting the logic? Am I knowing everything here? I only know one. And that also what? Most of us know coir is coconut. Inka coir enti ani teliyadu ante kashtam aithe. Are you understanding this, right? Next. There's one more. With this I'll stop, don't worry. Okay? Rest of the questions I'll give you for practice to see those. How many of the above activities are regulated by petroleum? Sir, is extreme factual data is correct or incorrect? What did I do there? Amazon, did I keep it or remove? If it was correct, then my life would have been troublesome. Incorrect. No, incorrect, my dear. Careful ante I gave you 70 to 90% incorrect anna. Anywhere. But now I am dealing with organizations, so I am categorically telling you. Anywhere. 3.2% of global exports. Extreme fact, right? Now look at this. How many of the above activities are regulated by Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board? Now this is PYQ. How? PNGRB was an organization which was asked in 2019. Right? Okay, you will not believe me. ఇప్పటికే చాలా ఎక్కువ అయిపోయింది. See this? This is 2019 question. 2019 question. I still remember it was question number 3 in my set, or 4, this side, right top first. Pass it up. 2019 lo mere graduation, right? PNGRB, regulatory body set up, ensures competitive markets for gas. Against the decision goes appeal. Now in this you eliminate the first statement. Look at the first statement. Is the first regulatory body to set up by government of India. Can it be first? Forget about the year, my dear. Now if it was first, don't you think you would have studied? Don't you think you would have studied this is the first regulatory board? You would have by heart it. Somebody would have given you notes. When I entered the exam hall, I didn't even know that something like this was there. 2019, I'm not joking. I didn't even know something like this is there, but I'm damn sure that it is not the first regulatory. You remove this first regulatory, the life is so easy. Should I be the managing director of PNGRB to write this question? ఆయన కూడా ఎక్కువ ఆలోచిస్తాడు. Are you understanding this? Now in this, look at the second statement. One of the tasks of PNGRB is to ensure competitive markets for gas. Now get back to that question. Question 60 it was. Yes. How many of the above activities are regulated by Petroleum and Natural Gas Board? Now what is one thing that it was talking about? If it is talking about petroleum, is crude oil petroleum or refining of crude oil is petroleum? So definitely nothing to do with production of crude oil. Yes. Now refining, storage and distribution of petroleum. Yes. Marketing and sale of petroleum products. Yes. Commercial aspect. Now you are fine with these two, but now we are left with production of natural gas. What is there to regulate the production? Now if it was, say, production of medicine, can I regulate that? Yes. What is there to regulate the production of natural gas? When I talk about regulation of production of natural gas, the more production I want, or the more production, more better it is. But why should I get into the regulation of production of natural gas? And if you would have done the 2019 PYQ, the second statement says what? It gets into what, my dear? The commercial aspects of gas. Nothing to do with production. That is the role of PYQs in eliminating the statement as well. And when I was solving this, only one question that clicked into my head was 2019. That is what is meant by doing PYQs. Now PYQs here doesn't mean you sit and write notes and by heart that. No. PYQs deals with what? Remembering the verbatim, understanding the pattern, analyzing the dimension, and this is what is meant by repetition of PYQ. And most of you think that repetition of PYQ is just the verbatim of it. No. Is this clear? Are you understanding this, right? Rest of the questions you kindly go back and solve as practice. Okay? So most of them you'll be able to do it. Okay? So that is all with respect to today's elimination, right?